I'm Zena. Welcome back to My Heart Remembers, where we explore the fundamental relationships with our culture, with each other, and with the mystical, wonderful world in which we live. I'm thrilled to bring you this recent profound conversation about love, life, and healing that I had with John Breen. May I suggest you sit back, relax, and dive into this luscious adventure. Just in the last few days of getting the podcast going, I discovered that I needed to talk to you.
Okay.
And I was uncertain about that. Like not uncertain about talking to you,
Yeah.
but uncertain about why. I'm like, is it for the show? Well, yeah, possibly. And I didn't really know your history. I just know that I've known you for quite a while on Facebook, and that you always have something really fantastic to say, and have always been impressed with the dialogue that way. And when I contacted you, you very clearly said, hey, you know what? I have something I want to chat to you about in the new year. And you asked me a little later in our conversation, because I said, well, I want you on my podcast.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's interesting because, of course, my thoughts are, this is the way of course, this is the way the universe works, of course, right? And when you're tuned into it really works well. And it's just so well balanced, it just is that. And it was interesting because it was just like, can you do this? Can you do that? Do you want to do this? I'm like, yes, let's do this. I have been doing this for 13 years, and I just love doing this work. Like I got a text just before we started here, and it'll be interesting now. It was recommended. Like I don't even have a website; it's all recommendations, and it was about a woman who nearly died in a boat accident. I'm going to be doing work on it, so of course it's trauma, and I know I can do it. And the interesting thing is you map it out as you do this, because all it is thought. You're mapping out your thoughts constantly. Because when you're in a different frequency, in a different vibration, like it says on my door outside the office, it's exactly that. We are just thought in a physical form on this dimension. It's just slow.
Which is, again, something that I found really exciting. What is on your door? So you can tell us again what that, or tell us here what that is.
Well, it's just
what it says on your door. I mean, it has the infinity symbol,
yes,
and it
says the door to infinite possibilities. And on the top, it has infinity, and on the bottom, it has what I would say is the Kundalini arising, which is, of course, is a lot of people don't know this, but it's actually, like I would say, maximum health, and that's the health sign. A lot of people don't understand that, but that's actually what it is. It's also, as you look at it, it's actually in the shape of a heart. All of that information.
Yes, I noticed that there is definitely a whole shape to all of the words on the door.
Yes, yeah.
The way it's set out.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
So I'm going to ask you so that you can explain, start with how you got to this healing work.
Well, as you know, like from my perspective, I didn't believe in any of this stuff. It was not a part of my world, and I had no interest in it. It was about as far away from what I wanted to do as you could possibly imagine. But me and my wife bought a house in North Pickering many, many years ago, and it was a fixer-upper, and this was all we could afford. So we were just happy as clams. So we went out and we bought the house. And to be quite frank, we weren't really that handy when we started. But we ended up, of course, with a house like that. You learn because you can't afford to pay anyone, So
you learn a lot of things.
Well, you have to, right? You constantly go to Home Depot asking a million questions, but at the end of the day, yes, it's worth it, right? And so we moved.
And hire professionals for some work,
Well,
things, right?
A lot of it was cosmetic. There's a little bit of heating problems and stuff, but for the most part, it was like a lot of stuff that we could do. You just learn to do it, right? Like it wasn't electrical and gas. It wasn't that type of stuff. But
Thankfully.
yeah, so
Yeah.
we move in and we're just so happy. And it was a cute little house, 1,500 square feet wooden house. Very, very happy, like you couldn't have been happier.
It was an older home.
Oh, absolutely. It was probably, I'm gonna guess, but it was probably about 130, 140 years old. Like it was really old.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's
Wow.
interesting. And at some point in time, I'd like you to send you a picture of the glass door.
So a family built it.
It was actually this house. This house was uh, had a lot of traffic going through it. It was actually in Claremont, and Claremont was very well known for people traveling through to go to downtown Toronto. So apparently it was a gate through, and people. It used to be like a busy little hub at one time. We used to have a hotel, and it wasn't a sleepy little town like it was back then. And it was used as like a DOS house. Like you would go there and sleep on the floor, and you would basically it was just people sleeping on the floor, getting up the next day and moving on. With oxen probably or
Oh.
horses, and
Oh, okay.
it was that
I
type.
wonder. Interesting, because I had family members who used to move cattle. They made a lot of money at that. Apparently,
Oh, is that right then?
interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, so,
Yeah. Well, one of the main places was in Toronto for the exchange of animals like
oh,
that, like herds. Yeah.
nice, nice.
Hmm.
So,
Interesting. I wonder if any of my relatives ever
you never
stayed
know.
there. I don't
You
know.
never,
Doesn't matter. Okay.
you never know.
Yeah, I never know.
Well,
No.
well, of course, everything seems to. It was very interesting because things, the way you would see it's going to sound very tongue in cheek and it's going to sound very stereotypical, but it really was the type of thing where, like, you'd see stuff move, or you'd hear banging, or you'd hear stuff, and there'd be a lot of stuff going on, like so much stuff. I mean, at first you start to log this stuff, thinking, first off, when it first happens, your immediate reaction is your logical mind kicks in and says, "This doesn't make sense. This is not logical. I don't understand." Right? So, but like you
So
think,
it doesn't exist really.
well, yeah,
You're like, whatever. Put it out of your mind.
yeah, well, you do.
Oh, whatever. Yeah.
You think this doesn't make sense. And my wife's there, so she's seeing it. So I know I'm not going insane, right? So like you look at stuff happening,
Yeah.
you can imagine, right?
No, it is nice to have witnesses to some things when you're not used to it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so what happens with situations like that? Like in the movies, they run out the house, right? But we're paying a big mortgage on this house. So I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. I just want to try to get the box.
So it was scary, some of the
Some
things.
of it was a bit scary, yeah, yeah. Some of it was scary. I remember one time we had a little cat and it got dragged down the stairs. Literally, you could hear it getting pulled down
Wow.
the stairs. Yeah, there was some not nice things happening. I remember one time.
Well, that's not nice.
No, it wasn't. But there was a lot of good things in that house too. There was a lot of good things. But we brought a medium in to clean the house, and that like the way, like when they say that really opened your eyes, it did, but it kept them open. They didn't shut after that because they couldn't, right?
So you kind of got a grip on what this person saw as well
Well,
and worked with.
well, yeah, because then you start to realize that there's more to it than you could possibly imagine, and then I became a seeker. You go on this whole seeking thing of why and all this, and of course, when you seek and you bump into people who are seeking, maybe if not the same thing, but just seeking anyway because they've had a different experience that is tailor made to their life, and you're bumping into these people, and as you bump into them, you tend to find that everyone have a little piece of the puzzle in some strange way. It's the strangest thing, and as you're going through them,
Yes,
it's
it's like it's as though these people needed to be there at that time, and they had information that would assist, or situations that assist you. And assistance can mean that, oh, stay away from that, for example.
Mhm. Yeah,
Okay,
it
so so you bumped into a house that had activity,
it was very active.
and it transformed your life into seeking.
It did, and once again, you run into different people, and your eyes are open, and you more open to different concepts that you thought would never exist. So the aperture of your mind just completely opens, you know? Just completely.
So it would be really interesting to hear some of how this seeking, like where this seeking took you. You mentioned something about crystals
Yeah,
being one of your first steps into it personally, your own personal
yeah.
seeking.
Well, it's interesting. I get the medium at the time gave me a stone. He says, "I need you to keep this hold and just keep it." And I think it was more thinking about it now. It was just a dissipating if I had fear, or maybe just like a physical thing to hold, almost like a security blanket. I'm really not too sure, but that was my first introduction to crystals. Now, I do remember at one time we were in one room, and this was upstairs in the house. Okay, and at the time I had a black lab. And I had crystals in the house, and of course, like in the movies, and this is the truth, the whole room went cold. And I mean cold, like you could see your breath, right? Then all of a sudden,
Yes.
there was about four of us in the room. The dog walks in, looks at it all, and had a crystal in its mouth, picked it up from somewhere. Now, I don't know about you, but dogs don't pick up stones. This dog never picked up a stone. It walked.
Not normally. Not normally. They usually pick up things they want to eat, unless they want to play sometimes, but not
Yeah, like a
stones.
stick. Yeah. And it just came up and it dropped it
Balls,
right in
sticks.
front of us. It was the strangest thing.
Oh,
It was the strangest thing.
that is what. Okay, so the room was cold. The dog picked up a particular stone, brought it into the room where you were.
Yeah, and just look.
Was there any other activity in the room?
There was so much activity. I would have to go through with my wife to recall a lot. I could go through with my wife and record a lot of the detail, and I could have more of that for you for sure. Like some of the things that.
Yeah. So the house definitely is something to, perhaps discover in the future. But that moved you to the seeker thing.
Well, yeah, and
in your life, to change your life.
It definitely changed my life, only to find out from gifted people who would walk into the house that the house was actually on a meridian line, a cross section of a meridian line, which made there was actually a porthole in the house, and that's why it was so active. When I was told that when you get a cross section of two meridian lines, that that it's a portal.
Oh, you have a crossroads.
Yes, there's something there, you know.
You have a crossroads. Well, I lived in a house that had that as well. I can tell you it was crazy.
It is.
So, yeah, it was definitely something that, and I was at a stage where I thought, well, can I do anything about this? Can I fix it? I mean, that was my stage when I lived in a house like that, but I realized it wasn't about that. You can't really fix that. It is what it is.
Yeah.
So that experience for me was probably one of the most intense places I ever lived. So your first step into saying, I'm going to be a seeker was in somewhere where, I hesitate to go. I will go, but I hesitate to go.
Well,
was there any death?
In the house,
there while you were there?
There was death, yeah. Yeah, there was death. There was a lot. With that much, I would assume that with that much traveling in the house, there was good things and there was bad things. There was probably a lot of people who were excited to move on with their lives and they would stay there. And there was probably a lot of not nice things that happened. And yeah, there was a death in the basement, apparently, yeah.
Well, I just knew when I found out and lived in the house that I lived in that I realized that mythology, I never really looked into it deeper, but the idea of dying in the crossroads is not a place you want to die. There were people who had attached themselves to the location I was at.
Yeah, an imprint.
And I don't know how, there's imprint, and then there's something even more capable. I mean, I was picked up and thrown across the room.
Oh, wow.
From a dead sleep, yeah. So that's just one example of what happened in that place, which was on two crossing. And I know them as ley lines.
Yes.
Meridian ley, yeah. Okay, so you were in a really intense place, but it's also a good place to do work.
It is, like a port. But you have to look at a porthole as a microphone. I mean, you could never blame a microphone for swearing, right? You know,
No, that's kind of up to you.
it, it,
That's like,
it's what it's
yeah,
what you
not
do.
up to the microphone. Oh yeah, okay. So yeah, I get you.
Yeah, so it was like, so I wanted to use it for good. This portal, I wanted to use it for good. And I had a gentleman that I was working with for about 9 months, and he would channel, and he would come in with different energies constantly for about 9 months, and he developed himself, and I developed myself, and these energies kept on giving me gifts, kept on giving me gifts, and I do remember very distinctly that they were giving me infinity gifts. They were saying it was infinity, and at the time,
So
I really didn't
the,
understand it.
the location having, in a sense, um, a different type of resonance than other places, um, put you in a position to be somewhere where you could hear more easily, as long as you're quiet. Because in my work, when I was doing it, I discovered that I'm really noisy.
Okay.
There's a lot of noise going on, and that you know there's also another level where I discovered that I had a lot of intuition, which I realized was just petty stuff that it wasn't important. It felt important, when I was having it, but I realized, no, there's more, and I need to listen. So it was a matter of really, really listening. And I had the opportunity to be at a few other places. Like the first place I really did my study was in an old synagogue. So there had been, at least a generation of people doing the same kind of work there. And then I moved to another location where it was as though there was a river underneath. So everything was always being cleansed in a way. And then, but so I'm saying that it was difficult for me to listen.
Yeah, it's
So
sorry. Go ahead.
your location you're talking about actually excited it for me even more. The type of location you're talking about, it was even harder for me. So this is wild. You just went in there and went at it to learn.
Well, I couldn't go
So
any.
someone else is
I couldn't
you
go anywhere because I lived there, right?
you
It's
were there. This is it. This is the place.
I guess I
Oh my
can't
goodness.
escape it, right? It's like you kind of
Yeah.
thrown into the whirlwind, and you're going to land where you're meant to land. You know,
So did you find that your skeptical nature was helpful?
definitely, most definitely, absolutely. Absolutely, it was. I think skepticism is definitely healthy, not only with this, but in life in general. I mean, you see, it's a tool, isn't it? It's a useful tool. I find that unfortunately, in some capacity, when people start to wake up to a lot of different things, I think sometimes it's nice to be reborn into, let's say, new knowledge, which is great. But what people don't understand is the knowledge that you've gathered prior to waking up is also very valuable too. That is part of your story.
Yes, but you need to know, well, you learn what elements of it is valuable.
Yes,
And as you're saying,
you're right.
skepticism
Yeah.
has,
Healthy.
it has, yeah, it does. It makes you stop and say, well, is that particular thing repeatable? And the answer would be probably no, because most of this type of thing isn't. Like a lot of it isn't. So you're like, okay, if it's not repeatable and it's not something that is, then it's not a say an organ of perception. Then it's just an accident.
Try.
Like I know it as terms of developing our organs of perception.
Oh, okay.
That's how the words yeah, I just throw it out there for you. And I think you'd appreciate that term. It's from the traditions, and they use that word to say that as beings we have many organs of perception, and we need to actually know how to. And there's something we both agreed on, that we are spirit in a physical body that has organs, right? We know it has organs, and there's an understanding of how to actually live and work and be in this body. And to me, just being a seeker is vital to every person rather than something that is only for exceptional people.
Hmm.
To me, it's something that I like to offer as a general thing to say, it's something to look into, to question yourself and be skeptical, as you
Yeah,
say.
I mean, to a point, of course. Like, but it's interesting because I look at like perhaps I look at myself as a cell in the body of humanity, of course. So not only am I a seeker, but I'm a seeker for everyone because I'm just like a white blood cell, and I can't exist without the red blood cells. White blood cell and the red blood cell have to work in unison. So I'm doing it for my own development, but I'm doing it for the advancement of expansion, and, of knowledge of
Certainly,
things. Yeah.
certainly, yeah. Because to spend some time developing in that way your perceptions and more, because I mean, if you have them, then you must have a somewhere they can be used in life in some way. The information you get and the understanding you get. So you've developed, or I'm not sure I want to use the word develop. Is that what you would call your work? It was something you developed into, or something you felt as though was clearly what you needed to do? Now I'm putting words in
That's
your mouth.
okay. That's okay. I think like see when I work, it's different than most people. So when I do what I do, I don't. I'm not a psychic. I don't classify myself as psychic by any means. Like I'm just your average person. But when I get people on the table, that's when it begins. Like I don't. How can I put this? I don't pick up on stuff. Like a lot of people will pick up on stuff, but I know this much that when I work on people, I raise the vibration out of this frequency. They're literally out of the body. So think of it like the best way I can describe this is think of a fan. When you have a fan on low, it's a solid object that oscillates or vibrates and you see it. Then you put it on medium and you see the fan and you don't. And then when you put it on high, there is a fan, but it disappears. So I raise their consciousness at the point of high frequency, and then I bring them up to different frequencies and different vibrations. Now that's me on the table. Now when I'm not on the table, I'm not connected. I'm not connected. I don't.
Yeah,
Well,
it's a totally separate thing.
yeah.
Do you how do you feel um generally? Is it something that because my experience is that I need to spend a few minutes a day kind of raising my vibration and in a general way, which is to remind myself of the absolute awe and wonder of existing. So it may take a few moments and then kind of dance around a bit in that kind of wow, this is this is amazing, just being alive.
Well,
And
sorry, go ahead.
I'm wondering, the work that you're doing, obviously, because the sense what happens when they come back, or you, I'm saying coming
Well,
back because you are in a sense, or change, or because that would stay with you that resonance, the you and the person in the room. It's not something you'd forget.
oh no, it's very. Believe me, it's extremely beautiful. It's a dance. It's extremely beautiful. It's such an honor to do this work. It is. It's to serve humanity. It's interesting, like you think, from my position, you think, would you want to be like if you could write this whole script again, and you say, would you like to be an actor? Would you like to be a rock star? Would you like to be any of this stuff? And truthfully, there is nothing else I would rather do with my time right now. It is such an honor to work on people, and it's interesting because when someone comes to see me, it they come to me and they are generally transparent because they need help, and that is such an honor for them to open up themselves to me even before any work is done.
So they've made up their mind that they really need this help.
Yeah,
I mean, I understand that.
yeah.
I had, that's also part of the reason I was in touch with you, is that I'd made up my mind that I needed a hand. And I made it up a while ago, but I wasn't uncertain where that would come from. And I also realized I wasn't quite ready for it.
Hmm.
There was an instability that was really intense for myself. And I needed to spend some time balancing and remembering uh, just general love, never mind the divine love.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, there's room in
it took a bit of personal seeking and looking at myself to be able to even contact you.
Mhm.
So I would gather that anyone who does, has a similar thing, is,
Yeah,
as you're saying.
yeah,
So they're transparent because you see, and also they've asked for it. There must be stuff they're trying to hide sometimes. So
but I have to tell you, like what I
I would. Oh, don't look! Please don't look, John.
no, it doesn't work like that, because in all truth, let's say I'm working on using it. If I'm working on you, I don't see any of your lineage. I don't see where you've been. I don't see what you've done. I don't see
Okay.
any of this stuff. And really, there was no self interest in that for me. It's a waste. It's a waste of time, right? And when you've worked on enough people anyway, you realize that judgment is completely useless if you want to use it. It doesn't make sense. It's not a currency that I have, you know.
Well, you're discussing bringing somebody else to another vibration. So perhaps you could explain what that is and how that is. And I think that would maybe explain what you're saying. I understand that.
Mhm.
But we're here and we have an opportunity to let other people get a sense of that as well. Because I think it's very important that people kind of know that um, this is available to everyone.
Mhm.
It's just a matter of personally choosing. I feel that way. I feel, sometimes the world brings you strange things and forces you to,
Yes.
as I believe happened to you.
Well, you know what?
Like one of the most exceptional buildings, that I would love to go visit that. By the way, I guess you're not still
No,
there
no,
now.
it's still standing, but no, I'm not there. It's interesting, though, but I kind of look at it.
It's still
It's still
standing.
standing after all these years.
Are you hinting that it might not have been still
Well, there's no one in
standing?
it. There's no one there. There's no one living.
Oh, it's
Well, it's
empty.
not. Someone
Oh,
owns it, but there's no one living. Yeah,
well, maybe it's hard to live in. I think it would be,
yeah. It's
unless
definitely got a
you're
story to it.
what the world calls a muggle. But you were, so never mind. I don't like that term. I feel that is wrong. It's kind of a fun. I'm sorry, I said
That's
muggle.
okay. But it was almost like
Yeah, straight from Harry Potter. Oh my
that's okay.
goodness.
But it's interesting. I look at the experience in the house, and I look at a baby growing teeth for new nourishment, and it was kind of like me cutting my own gums, trying to understand what was going on. So that was my transition to kind of like, I would say, solid food. I would say it was just a growth spurt for me. That was sometimes it was a little bit painful,
It's like, here you go,
but
John. Was it? They're here. No, I can imagine. I'd be interested at some point in discussing with you and your wife
Mhm.
the space itself and some of the actual phenomena
Yeah,
that occurred there. I'd be
it
interested.
was definitely phenomenal. And actually, funny enough, I took a course, a development course, and I was in a class to develop because, of course, I was a seeker. So I went to a class and they were showing the class. And for whatever reason, I got to be quite frank with you, I really wasn't good at that class at what they were teaching, right? I just didn't fit in for whatever reason.
Hmm.
It wasn't my thing, but it was a great class. Well, needless to say, a friend of mine started to wake and I sent him to the class. And then guess where they went at the end of the year when they celebrated? They went to my house because it was so active. So you got to understand, it was like 15 people came to the house who were students to experience this house. That's how active it was.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yes, it was incredible. And it was and like we sat down, we had tea, and as you're walking through the house, you could smell things that you weren't smelling before. They were showing us stuff. It was quite unique. Yeah.
Oh, so well, there is some work to be done by sharing experiences in a space, no matter what it is, with somebody else who is a seeker as well. There's something special to that. So that must have been really neat for everyone involved.
Yeah, it was.
As you said, though, that course itself
Yeah.
didn't have things for you, which is fine. There was something
Yeah,
there.
it just didn't for me. It didn't fit, but it was great, and the course was great. Don't get me wrong; the teacher was incredible, but it just and sometimes when you're a seeker, it seems like sometimes when you knock on the door, when you first start seeking, you knock on a door and it doesn't open, you're disappointed. Then when you get wiser and you knock on a door and it doesn't open, you realize it's not meant to open. There's a big difference.
Sorry, it cut out
Sorry.
there. Actually, you said that, which I think is funny because you said, and I'm going to try and go through what you said. You said sometimes when you knock on a door and it doesn't open, you get disappointed, and then you said, but sometimes when you knock on a door and it doesn't open, and then there's a space.
Well. Okay.
And you were telling us something, and it cut off.
But what I was saying, as a seeker, like when I went to this class and I wasn't successful at this class, I look at the metaphor as knocking on a door. You knock on a door and it doesn't open for you, and then you're disappointed. What am I doing wrong? Why isn't this? And then is it me? What am I doing? And then through wisdom, as being a seeker, you knock on the door with a bit of wisdom and it doesn't open, and you know that door was never meant to open for you. And this is how you develop yourself. You understand that you're meant to go exactly where you
Yeah, okay. I would agree, but sometimes I've discovered that when I'm knocking on that door and it doesn't open, I guess, it's a personal thing, but many of them it was just that, well, I was a little too quick. I needed to actually spend a bit more time, working on a few other things.
Okay.
And then I've gone back and it's been well worth it. But I agree. Both are true, right? It depends on yourself. And maybe that door's just not for you, so don't bang your head on it.
But
I'm not saying to bang your head on it. Yeah. Well, I guess, you think about doors then, if you're walking down the street anywhere, do you go up and open all of them? No. You go to ones where you're invited. And they generally kind of glow a bit more, and as you're there, there's more ease to it. And I would like to properly quote a Rabia commentary from ancient Sufi material, but I don't believe that I can do it correctly other than to say the end of her statement, which is the door was always open. And that is something that I did discover, that often it was a matter of learning about things like, the simple virtues, which are not directly available to us. There's something that we have to allow ourselves to learn about. Virtues being, now I can't think of the name. That's so funny that I can't think of the names of them. Oh dear. That's good. Well, they must not be that important, but they are. Are you familiar with the virtues in traditions?
No,
such as humility.
No, I'm not actually. No.
Generosity.
Oh well, yeah, I probably practice them, but I don't. I just it's just what I do. I don't. It's just
maybe it's just more part of your nature.
It's not
I had to work at it. I still have to. I still have to. There are more of them, and I can't even think of them. But I'll start with generosity and humility. Not to humiliate yourself. It is about humility, where you recognize that we all have our demons. That's that noise that I'm doing this wrong, I'm doing this right, I'm so special, I'm such a crappy thing. It's a whole wealth of noise that's in all of us. And humility is to say that is in me. I have, at one level. That's just one level of humility. There's much more, and I gather that that's part of the work that you do, is that you couldn't do this work without an amount of it. Perhaps it's just more natural to you and less natural to me.
Well, it's hard to judge. I mean, I make
Yeah.
I make mistakes. I do all different things. I'm someone who went through an experience, and I want to share it, and I want to assist people, and I help to connect the dots in people's minds. Very often, I find that I release attachments from people, and essentially, attachments are,
Oh,
you might probably know,
yes.
energy. They're like energetic parasites. So these
Yes.
energetic parasites predominantly are in the stomach, or that around the chakra systems, around the root chakra, going up to, probably they stop before they get to the heart chakra. Sometimes they get it. Now these
Yeah.
things are not nice things, but they exist. They are what they are. They are what they are. And I remove them. And what these things do, they will prey on a lot of anxiety and a lot of depression. It's kind of like, the impression that I get is, it's kind of like it's food for these parasites. Now, I've thought about this in great detail about these parasites, and I think, but it's not like I like them. I don't like them, but they exist. Therefore, they are part of the puzzle. They are part of this whole game.
They're part of being here and being alive, and can occur. Uh, Interesting.
hmm And I remove
Hmm.
these things, and I balance in chakra systems, decalcifying the pineal glands. The meridian lines, I straighten the meridian lines. Any cell memory within the body that will not serve the individual. Now, it's not what I want it for the individual. This is not my trip. It's about the person I'm working on. I want them to get what they want. I do my best efforts to give them what is the greater good for what they're going to need at any given time. So, sometimes, Zena, sometimes as I'm working on people, it will go into past life. And I describe it as tripping into past life, because I'm not in control. I allow, and I like the experience to take place. Sometimes
Well, you are in essence in a place that is not a place, in a time that is not a
yeah,
time.
there is no time.
I said,
There is no time. And I say to people, when they come to see me, when I get outside of this frequency, of this vibration, Zena, there is time. I can't stress this enough. Time does not exist, and things are effortless for me, or should I say, the individual I'm working on, because everything is tangible, everything is close. There is no time frame for waiting on anything. You wouldn't believe it, honestly. It really is
can
quite profound, to be honest.
can you express some of the experiences that brought you to the work that you're doing, and your understanding of how this particular part of the universe um, has, in a sense, no direct intent. In a sense, I mean, you had said something about, oh, something about how, because my experience with it is that it is a loving, caring thing beyond our words, and there is a word for it in the Latin uh, for love, and I I have that these days.
Yes.
I can't think of the word, but there are several words in Greek for love, and it's one of them. It's different. It's like it holds you, it carries you. There's wisdom there. You can feel wisdom brushing up against you while you're there, but there is no you. So
You
it's
are
very
connected. Yeah,
difficult.
you are connected, and when you're there, you connect dots that you can never think of it, Zena. Think of it like this. Imagine, let's say you go to see a doctor. Okay, you go to see a doctor, and you have an ailment of some type. And then you go to see him, and then he'll recommend you to a specialist. And then the specialist will work on you, and hopefully you'll get the service that you need to get. Right? So it's a whole big process, and it's fine and it's good. But what I've found through doing this for over 13 years, now this might sound very odd, but I just have to say it as I know it. I have to speak my truth as I know. Think of it like I raise the vibration outside of this frequency, okay? And I can call upon specialists in that particular field. But the thing is that they are far more advanced than the scope of being in this frequency, like in 3D in this time frame, 2018. Because time doesn't exist, I don't know how this works, but the technology, in whatever way, is so advanced. I did work on a lady, maybe it's a month ago now, I'm not sure. And I was working on it, and very often they will scan their own bodies. I'll get them to scan their own bodies, and it's nice because when they scan their own bodies, it empowers them. Because most people who come to see me are not feeling very much empowered. So I like them to heal themselves, to fix themselves, and I like them to observe the work that's being done. So let's say I need an individual to work on a kidney, or let's say I need an individual work on bones. This is all tangible. It's all tangible once you get outside of this frequency. I did a work on this lady, and I was probably into it for about an hour and a half. And generally, my sessions are about an hour and a half. Well, this went on a little bit further for whatever reason. Then she says to me, "There's something in my heart." So she stopped on her heart, and she got a sense because she's working with the energies in the room, and she says, "I got a sense that to stop on my heart." And she said, "There's a valve around the back of my heart." And she says to me, "John, it's not working correctly. It's kind of flopping all over the place. It's not running at full capacity. It's not." Now she's sensing this. You have to understand that I'm in the office working on her, and she's telling me all this. I'm not telling her anything. You understand? So she's telling me this, what's going on. And she said to me, "Okay, they're working on my heart." And I says, "Okay, they brought to attention about a heart valve." So I says, "Ask the energy in the room, are we going to replace the heart valve? Or are we going to fix the heart valve?" Right away, she says to me, "They're going to replace it." I says, "Okay." So we're waiting there. This procedure took about 10 minutes, maybe 7, 10 minutes, maybe. It's hard to tell. They replaced the energy in the room, replaced the valve. And she's witnessing this whole thing happen. The whole thing. So she comes out this.
Well,
I'm sorry?
in the stuff I've studied, they talk about regeneration. That with the right type of like even just enough joy in yourself, you begin to regenerate in general. And all of the study I did in martial arts also teaches that there's a level of regeneration. So there's, I mean, theoretically, it could happen instantaneous. Generally, because you want to have that as a more continual thing. It's something that you can take your time doing. But this is, you're saying, bam, there it is.
It was very, very fast. And then what happened was, so we'd finished the session. She got off the massage table, and I have a couple of chairs in my office. So she sat down, lovely lady. And she says, "John," she says, I says, "Well, what's up?" She says, "I've got almost like a little sharp pain in my heart." I said, "Oh, you okay?" So, and I'm thinking to myself, well, right away, my immediate is, well, she's just had a valve replacement. Then she goes to the washroom because it's a long session. Then she comes back in, and I said, "How is you got that? Still got that little twitch?" She says, "No, it's gone." So what I'm saying is, I run across stuff like that in all different ways. Like, and every session is an absolute surprise to me, right?
Well, the individual has their own, their own situation that they're going through, and they're given an opportunity to spend some time looking at it in a deeper way than they ever can on their own in general. Do you find that it changes their lives in general as well in other ways?
Well, I find that when you change the inner universe, I find that the outside universe can change very easily. And what I mean by that, when they strip the cells in the body and reprogram them and get rid of any lower frequencies within the cells, I find that people are looking at things a whole lot different, especially with anxiety and depression, especially with that. It's kind of like they kind of cannot connect the dots for themselves. It's very empowering,
Hmm.
right?
Well, if they've had an opportunity to witness this and participate in it, they of course now have more knowledge about it themselves, rather than you know certain type of people out there who offer healings, and they have some kind of idea like they've done it themselves, which I've over the years gone, no, it's not something that another person is doing. Like, and this is where I had issue with certain people I ran into who did certain types of things. And I like how you didn't mention what kind of class you were taking, but I get that, and I won't mention them. But I've had some very interesting and perhaps bad experience with organizations who claim to be healing systems. And it doesn't include the individual, it doesn't bring them into the situation, it doesn't allow them the opportunity to acknowledge what's going on. And it's often a temporary thing, so they have to continue going back to get this particular service. And in I'm just wondering, is that something that you end up doing? Is it like people continually going back to you, or?
Well, it all depends. I don't think I've ever seen anyone for more than 3 sessions. I can't recall seeing anyone more than, and like, hopefully, from my position, I just want. My intention is to do as much as I can within the time frame that I have on this, because I'm here. I'm still in 3D, but there is so much work done because where they're at, there is no time. So that's why we can kind of cram so much in because there is no time, right? And I like it because it empowers the individual. And moving forward, it's kind of used like a springboard. I had a lady who was suffering quite bad, and she was medicated for about 30 years. Now, I would never, ever, ever say to someone, don't take your medication. I just wouldn't do it. It's not for me to say. But she came, I think she had 2 sessions, and she was meeting her friends, and she said, you know what? She says, John, my friends don't even recognize me. And this just melts my heart. I just love to hear stuff like that. I just love to hear it. And I did work on her maybe 9 months ago. And now, right now, all she does is meditate. She's not medicated. She meditates because there's so many people out there that need assistance. You know?
Well, this is what I had a feeling about the work that you do, that it wasn't something that you had to permanently
Mm-mm.
continually do. It's done. The person can take that into their life and move on, and they're free of some other things. Now, we've been discussing some really wild things, and you know that, in the sense of for people out there who like yourself are an unbeliever, which is fine, because as we both know, it's not something you convince somebody else about. But do you could you give those people a few words now that could help them, just to for themselves? I'd take a moment, relax, and think about it. I'd like that for people out there and those who already have a sense, because I know it'd be valuable to them to hear from you as well.
Well, it's a very broad question. And
Yeah.
what I can say, and this, I'll probably think back on this later, and I'll mull over it. But
Yeah.
my thoughts of this to date is that you only know what you know. I mean, don't forget, I lived in this frequency for most of my life, so I just feel that it's something you have to experience because I just don't feel it could translate in the way that you try to tell someone, but then you don't want to preach to them. it's kind of like an experience you have to go through yourself, and your timing will be your timing when it happens. As much as I'd like to prompt or have some type of head on this, I do believe that's the way it works. I do believe that when people come to see you, they're meant to come and see you. I do believe there's some divine energy out there. Um, you have to experience it. That's all I can really say. Um,
That's
that's all I got.
fantastic.
That is my truth.
And no, it's
My
fantastic.
truth.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you 3 questions that I offer guests.
Okay.
And the first one is, what do you fear?
What do I fear? Myself, or in the capacity of the work that I do?
What do you
What
fear?
do I fear? Well, that's a very good question. What do I fear? I think I think I can answer that. I can answer that very correctly, actually. As much as I like to do what I do, and I've been doing this for 13 years, I'll be quite frank. I think I'm afraid of my own success. That's what I'm afraid of.
Ah, yeah,
That,
okay.
that's the truth. But it's interesting. It's
Interesting. Like your own personal success, not obviously you don't fear success of
Oh
helping
God, no, not
people.
at all.
That's common for
But
people
but
who
but,
are
but let me tell you
healers.
this. This is
I
interesting.
get you.
I have great difficulty with reading and writing. Very difficult. I've always had this for whatever reason, and I often wonder why. And I'm very slow and I'm very klutzy, and when I read and write, it's my confidence. It's really not good. It smears into so many aspects of my life. But I have to say, when I do this work, it's a different language, and I flourish. I flourish in this world,
Mm.
and it brings so much joy to me and so much freedom and flexibility. So, in answer to your question,
And
and
others flourish as
100%, yeah,
well, right? Through the process
yeah,
of you doing
yeah.
it. Okay, so the next question is, what do you pay respect to?
What do I pay respect to? Life. Uh, the greatest gift is to serve people, is to serve humanity so much. Uh, to humanity, that is it.
Wonderful. Yeah, it's wonderful. Please
Mhm.
describe, because this is my
Okay.
next question. Please describe what what sanity means to you.
Ooh, sanity. Well, that's objective, isn't it, really? A lot of people might say I'm insane for doing the work that I do. I've had people uh, call me horrible names for the work that I do, saying it was demonic and so on and so forth. And I look at them and I think to myself, well, someone has to play that role, and and I kind of leave it there.
Somebody has to deal with the
Or
demons.
that can't be done. Or
Well, really, I'm
yeah,
serious.
I've had,
I had a short debate with somebody who doesn't actually, and most people don't understand that demon is a word describing a couple things, but one of them is the noise, that crazy noise that I kind of went through, which goes back and forth from the different levels of emotion. So that, and when it's stuck in a loop in you, that's a demon, and so somebody's got to deal with them. That's how, and usually it's yourself. But if you can get a hand, if someone can assist you, then all the better. That's how I feel about that. Yeah.
well, you know what, Zena,
So
I have to say I would love the opportunity to do some work on you. I would just love it. I really would.
this is an event that's
I
going to
would love
happen.
to. I would love to
It's
assist you in whatever capacity. I really would, because
I'm very
yeah,
excited
anyone can say
because
anything. I just want to serve. Sorry, go ahead.
no, I was listening. Anyone can say anything
Yeah,
you
well,
said.
yeah, anyone can say anything about anything. You could stand there and you could say, well, you know what? I make the best apple pie. Well, make it. Make the best happen. Right?
See, you're just reading me, right? I haven't been able to make apple pies for the last 10 years, and it's been driving me crazy because it's a family recipe from the East Coast, and they're absolutely amazing, but nobody's eaten them yet. So you're just reading me there, John. Thank you. I don't even know. Thank you. Now I'm feeling really guilty about those apple pies. Yes, anyone can
They
say
can't
anything
say
they
anything
wish.
until it's
The difference is, let us see. I mean, we're going to have an opportunity
I
to
would
do
love
that. And we're going to be doing that in the next 3 weeks or so, 4 weeks, and on different ways. I mean, we're not going to tell everyone else how.
Not at
I don't want anyone
No.
hacking into us. I'm joking. Never give out the time. Don't tell anyone the time you're doing it. I'm serious. You know, there is a level of existence where sitting around, people don't realize it, but sitting around thinking nasty things about each other isn't acting a demon. It's actually it's sinful. It's beyond sinful if you continue at it and know
Yeah.
it's wrong. So then it's evil
Yeah.
in my mind. So, you know, it's good to think good thoughts about people, find wonderful things that go on in people's lives. And it has been absolutely fantastic talking to you, John.
Tina, it's been a pleasure working with you.
Thank you. And we have more in the future.
Looking forward to it.
Yes, so am I. Well, fantastic. And thank your wife. I didn't get her name.
Gordana?
Sorry?
Yeah.
Gordana. Thank Gordana for the assistance, and Dakota, our producer, for getting us on here. And this has been My Heart Remembers. Thank you very much, John Breen.
Thank you.
My heart remembers all the while. My heart remembers all the while. My heart rejoices. My heart rejoices.